just want to start first by there have been conflicting reports about Michail Antonio's length of his injury. Can you give us any updates when he'll be back?
I think Mick's got a small injury, it's not a serious injury. Probably going to keep him out for a couple of weeks. So I don't see it being too serious, no.
Would that be thing maybe 2 weeks, less than a month, or?
I think about 2 weeks, maybe, give or take. No, I don't want to be nailed down to exactly the time span, but I think maybe 2 to 3 weeks, something like that might be his time.
And what about Jared Bowen? What's the update? Will he be available for this weekend?
We hope so, but it'll be a decision we make tomorrow. We won't be making a decision on that today.
And Naif Aguerre, we heard that he was unwell yesterday. Any updates if he'll be good to play this weekend?
This is like a doctor's surgery here at the moment. The way you're house, mate. Naif has come back. It's been difficult for a lot of the international boys. You know, a lot of them have had really late returns this trip for whatever reason. But no, we're hoping Naif will be okay. Yeah.
And what about as well Kufal? He was sent back during the international break from the Czech.
Who's that?
Vladimir. He was sent back during the international.
Oh, he's fine. He's been back.
He's
been back, and no, we're fine with him, and he's in good condition. Yeah.
And for you, what do you make of your former club Everton getting 10 points deduction?
I'm really disappointed for the club generally. I think Sean Dyche is doing a brilliant job, and they're just beginning to stabilise and steady themselves. But I think there's been these stories going around about it for quite a while. Whether it was true or not, nobody was quite sure. But it sounds as if there's been there's been something which the Premier League have felt that they've had to jump in. And look, there is rules. We've all have to abide by rules in every walk of life. And it's no different for football clubs as well. But I think Everton, the position they're in, the way they're playing, I think they'll still have a great chance of being a Premier League club next season.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Hi David, good afternoon.
Hi.
Overall, it's been a positive start to the season. What satisfied you the most so far, and what's the biggest improvement you want to see moving forward?
I think we've scored quite a few goals. I think we're trying to play slightly more open than we've been, but in turn that's causing us that we've conceded quite a lot of goals, which I'm really disappointed about. But that's what the balance what comes from it. You try to bring in more attacking, more offensive players, and you find yourself maybe conceding more than you would like. So it's something what I need to focus on and make sure that we're doing a much better job defensively than maybe we've done in certain games.
We just had the last international break for a while. Very busy schedule ahead. You're also playing in Europe, obviously. How do you think the squad will cope and manage with a very tight schedule ahead?
Really difficult to give an answer as well. You know, I wish the Premier League and everybody else would look much closer at the scheduling, because it might help us. But we're thrilled to be involved in European football. We want to challenge in the Premier League. We want to try and have good runs in the National Cup competitions. So if you want to do all that, then it's obviously a punishing schedule, but we go with it, and we'll sort of take every game as it comes and hopefully do as well as we can.
Burnley this weekend. What's the biggest challenge of facing them now?
I think Burnley's been a challenge no matter whenever I've played Burnley. I used to play a lot against them, used to manage a lot against them when I was manager of Preston North End, and through the years it was always a tough place. It's a different style now, Burnley, from where it was. I think Vincent's done great getting them up, playing the way they're doing, and it's another incredibly tough game, and it's always over years been a tough place to go and play.
The way Burnley started the season, that's surely another evidence of how big is the gap between the Championship and the Premier League, obviously.
You wouldn't have said that last year, when Fulham come up, I think it was, and when Forest. You wouldn't have said that. Last year was probably the toughest year in the Premier League I've ever known. As far as certainly the bottom half of the league, the competition. You only need to look at the sides who get relegated last year: Leeds United, Leicester City, but to name two. I think last year was as tough. So I think the teams coming out of the Championship in the main are doing a really good job. But obviously there'll be years when it's not quite like that. Maybe last year was, I wouldn't call it a one-off, but because I can remember the year I was a manager at Preston, I think Bolton, Fulham again, and Bolton, Fulham and Blackburn came up and never went out of the Premier League. They stayed up, the three teams stayed up that next year in the Premier League. So there is years where it's happened. This year's looking a little bit tougher for them, but I don't think I would put the title that necessarily shows the gulf between the Championship and the Premier League. I'd certainly not put that title to it.
Okay. And last season at this stage, 6 managers lost their jobs. So far this season, none. What do you think it tells us about the competition so far in the Premier League this year, and mainly in terms of relegation battle potential?
I think maybe it tells you that a lot of owners have understood that getting rid of managers is not the best thing to do.
Okay. Last one for me, please. And Vincent Kompany, obviously a Premier League legend as a player. A tough start for his Premier League management career. If you could give him one advice as a colleague, what would you do?
Vincent, I'm sure, has got some incredible people he's worked with who could give him great advice. None other than Pep, who was his manager. So he certainly wouldn't look for advice from me. But I admire him as a player. I admired him as the way he played for Belgium. Watched him over many years when he was a young player in Germany before he came out as well. So he's had a brilliant career, and I have to say he's had a great start to his managerial career as well.
Okay, and Lauren, BBC.
Hi David. A few international duty injuries is mentioned. Would you say that's one of the manager's kind of worst kind of fears when it comes to these international breaks?
Absolutely. We've had a great injury record here at the club this season. We really have. We've actually had very few players injured. We've had full squad every game just about. And I mean, now we've got players injured on international duty, so that's a blow, because if it's on our watch and they happen in our training or it happens in the games, then it's part and parcel. But I think when they go away with the national team, it becomes even more galling that they come back injured.
Yeah. Would you say this has maybe been one of the toughest international breaks for you as a manager when it comes to injuries?
Yeah, possibly, but I think it's part of I want to have international players, because it tells me that I'm getting some of the best players from whatever country they come from if they're internationals for their country. So I want my players to be playing for their country. I'd like more. I want more to be selected if possible. But the downside of it is that they come back with injuries.
Yeah. And speaking of Burnley as well, it's been a little bit of a struggle for them so far. How tough is it as a manager kind of trying to get your team out of the relegation zone?
Well, it's incredibly tough. I've had it a few times, and sometimes it's worked, sometimes it's not. It's a really difficult job to do. It's a different part of being a football manager. A lot of stress with it, worry, because you're so desperate to get away from the bottom end of the table. So it's not something I've enjoyed, not something I really want to do again if I can help it.
And finally, from me, when it comes to the Everton points deduction, I know it's been mentioned already. What are your thoughts when it comes to this, and when it comes to kind of other clubs that may have been accused of breaking the rules? Do you kind of feel like Everton might have been singled out, as they may have felt? What are your overall thoughts on that?
Well, I couldn't really give you my main opinion about what other clubs have done or not done, because it's not for me to judge that. The Premier League, if they think that there's other things going on, then they have to handle it the same way. You just can't pick out one and not deal with others. But overall, I'm disappointed for Everton because they're my old club. I've had brilliant years. We ran a very, very tight ship over. I had 11 years there as manager, where we didn't have a lot to spend. We fought hard to try and be in Europe most years, and we gave lots of young players debuts, and and people get opportunities to play. So I hope Everton bounce back. The one thing I do know is their fan base will rally round them like you can't believe, because they'll hugely support their club.